This is Bob Cozzi, and this is an overview of Cozzi Tools 2012. Cozzi Tools for IBM I was launched in early 2012. It's pronounced Coz Tools or Cozzi Tools. It's a licensed program available in developer and runtime editions. The runtime edition is no charge. It's free. You can install it anywhere, so you can develop your own applications using Cozzi Tools and then deploy them without paying a royalty. Online documentation is available over at our partner, midrangenews.com. Now, the origins of Cozzi Tools go back a long way. Back in the 1980s, we created the Q38 Programmer Utilities, which was a spin-off of the tools we would publish every month in the newsletters we did back then for the old IBM System 38. Then in the 1990s, with the AS400, we had something called Cozzi Utilities, which was very popular. Then in 2000, with the System I, the eServer I series, and now the Power Systems, RPG X Tools has taken over that role. And then recently, about 2010 or so, we introduced a open source RPG toolset called RPG Open. All of these products have been very popular and widely used. You probably are using some of them in your own shop right now. Let's talk about the Cozzi Tools editions that are available now that are replacing all those things that came before it. There are 3 editions available. The Enterprise Edition, which gives you everything. A Developer Edition, which we feel most shops will probably want to license. It gives you just enough to do your own development utilizing the tools that are in Cozzi Tools. And then a Runtime Edition, which anyone can download and use, and that includes quite a few commands. Now let's look at each one of these in a little bit more detail. The Enterprise Edition, as I mentioned, is our full product. It contains all the runtime service programs, objects, commands, that kind of thing. There are several dozen CL commands available in Cozzi Tools. Those, of course, are included in the Enterprise Edition. You also get, with the Enterprise Edition, all the prototype source code so that you can develop your own applications that take advantage of the interfaces provided by the Cozzi Tools. We also give you the command definition source code and the full source code to all the Cozzi tools, allowing you to actually recreate the tools yourself, modify them, or if you're in a corporate environment where you're just required to own a copy of the source code, the Enterprise Edition is the one that's right for you. Enterprise Edition is $49.99, and it comes with 90 days of email support, phone support, that kind of thing. You can also buy ongoing software maintenance agreement support contracts. Prices and availability are online at cozzitools.com. Now, the Developer Edition is a little bit less. It is all the runtime, the CL commands, the prototype source, and the command definition source, but it doesn't include the actual source code for the product itself. But this is enough source code so that you can add the interfaces such as the financial functions, the user space functions, all the interfaces that we provide. And there's over 50 of them today, and the number is growing by leaps and bounds. The Developer Edition gives you everything you need to develop and deploy applications that use the Cozzi Tools library. The Developer Edition is just $29.99. However, we're dropping that price to just $19.99 through September 30th, 2012. So as long as you order before October 1st, you get the lower price. And then last, we have the free Runtime Edition that simply contains the runtime and the CL commands. So things like copy, spool file, and send object and whatnot are all provided and can be used in your own shops. The Runtime Edition is no charge. Support is available as an option, so you can actually buy a support contract with that if you like, but the runtime itself is free. Now, the purpose of the runtime is to allow people who have licensed the Developer Edition or the Enterprise Edition the ability to create applications that take advantage of the Cozzi tools and then ship those to their customers, whether it's another division in their own company or to actual paying customers, and not have to pay an additional royalty or license fee in order to take advantage of those interfaces. This has been the #1 request we've had from software developers with RPGX tools. Now with Cozzi tools, we've architected it in a way that allows people to do that. And the byproduct is, the general public at large can take advantage of the free runtime. So we have 3 license versions available: the Enterprise Edition, which has full source code; the Developer Edition, which has just enough source code to allow you to do your own development work; and then the Runtime, which has no source code provided whatsoever. And you have 2 support options. You can either get an annual software maintenance agreement for a fixed fee, or you can pay per incident. Now let's look at how the Cozzi Tools Developer Edition can be integrated into your own applications. It's pretty easy. The Enterprise and Developer Editions, in order to integrate them, you simply add a binding directory keyword to the program's header spec. You include the prototypes in the DSpecs, and that's it. If you're using only the Runtime Edition, you can of course put any of the CL commands that are in the product into your own CL programs and compile them, and they will work even if you only have the Runtime Edition licensed. What you can also do is create your own CL commands or programs that your other applications can call that leverage the features in Cozzi Tools. And you can do that if you have the Enterprise or the Developer Editions available. So let's look at an example. Here's some RPG source code, just a simple program. It doesn't do much. But the point of this is to illustrate how you would incorporate the Cozzi Tools into your own applications. So let's suppose you have this starter code here. Simple little, looks like a customer listing program. Maybe it's outputting to the web. Maybe it's outputting to a subfile. I have QPrint listed here. So let's get started. We're going to modify this program so that we can interface the Cozzi Tools functions that are shipped with the product. And here we go. The first thing we do, add the binding directory keyword to the header spec. You can move this binding directory from the Cozzi Tools library, if you like, into your own library, and then you would simply include that library in your library list. You wouldn't have to qualify it, but this works just as well. So that's step 1. Step 2 is to include the prototype source code for the specific tool you're interested in using. Now in this program, all I want to do is send a program message to the caller and just let them know what I did. I'm going to do a /copy or /include statement, put the Cozzi Tools library, qcopy source is where we keep all the prototypes for the Cozzi Tools, and then the specific source member that I want to use. Now in this case, I want to send a program message, so I include the message prototype source member. That's really all there is to it, but that's step 2. Step 3, of course, is down here at the bottom, where we actually add a call to the send information message subprocedure that's included in the Cozzi Tools. In this case, I'm sending a message that says 237 customers have been listed. And that writes it out to the job log. It also sends it to the caller so that you have that piece of information listed. There's also send status message to easily just send a status message to the caller's external program queue. And there's also send message ID that lets you send a specific message ID from a specific message file. So now that we're using Cozzi Tools, we know we can put the binding directory keyword up in the header spec, and that connects the program to the Cozzi Tools. We include the /copy statement, which has all the prototypes in it for the various things we want to use. Now we can be granular like I've done here and just include one specific set of prototypes. Or you can specify the source member named Cozzi Tools, and it includes all the prototypes themselves. I prefer just to include a little bit more granular kind of prototyping, just the things I need, so I don't get all that stuff brought into the program. And then we go ahead and we use whatever tool we want to use in our program. Most of them are pretty simple to use. Some of them have a long list of parameters, but the way we write code, you typically only have to specify the things that are important and not the rest of it. To compile, there's no changes from what you do today. It's the same way you've always done it. PDM option 14 or RDP, right click, select compile, and you're done. If you have a change management tool, you may need to include the Cozzi Tools library into that change management system, but other than that, there's no real alterations that need to be made because of that. Let's look at what we have in the Cozzi Tools at this point in time. Right now, we're shipping over 50 sub-procedures that are included today. That number will continue to grow as we add more and more things. Remember, we're porting everything from RPG Open, RPG X tools, and our other products out there. Right now, we have conversion tools, message tools, as we mentioned a moment ago, math functions, some things to send to the job log, user space, some financial functions, and including min, max, and average, as well as loan amortization kind of thing, system information, and then a lot of CL helper functions. So as functions are added to Cozzi Tools, they're going to be what we're calling hardened and modernized. So as we move something from RPG Open or something from RPG X Tools or one of our other products into Cozzi Tools, it's going to be made consistent with the rest of Cozzi Tools, compatible with the way we do things in there, and provided to those who have a maintenance agreement or are buying the product new. All editions of the Cozzi Tools include the runtime support, and the runtime support can be used with any of your own applications that you develop that use Cozzi Tools. So you only have to buy one license for your shop. If you distribute your objects to another system, another physical system somewhere, another partition, you can install the free runtime there along with your application object code and just have it work. This is a list of the CL commands that we provide in the runtime that's available, and they all take advantage of the features of Cozzi Tools in order to exist. I certainly don't want to go over all of these right now. I do want to point out just a few that seem to be very popular. Copy out queue. This allows you to copy all the spool files in one out queue to another out queue. It just makes a copy of them and sends them over, and now you've duplicated whatever was in the out queue. This is very useful, particularly if you have multiple systems and you want to send the contents of one out queue to another system, a remote system. You can simply move it to another out queue. That out queue can be a remote out queue, and it sends all the spool files over there. But it doesn't even have to be a remote out queue. The command itself allows you to specify a remote system name, and it'll transmit the spool file data over to that remote system for you. It's pretty popular, very powerful. And there's a copy print file command, which is the old dupe spool file command we've wanted since the 1980s. Probably not as critical today as it used to be, but it does work really nice. You can just tell it to copy this spool file, and it duplicates it for you. Unlike the copy spool file command, which doesn't copy a spool file at all, it simply moves it to a database file. This actually creates a new copy of the spool file with all the same attributes. You can specify some of the attributes to be overridden, and it just works great. Very fast too. Copy source remote allows you to copy source between systems, and it retains the source statement change dates and sequence numbers. You say copy source remote, you identify the remote system and the source file name, and it just copies the source code across just like copy source file would, except you've got a remote location name in there, and it works just fine. User space. If you use user spaces, you're going to love this. You can do a create, a retrieve, or obviously the delete is in the system already, and you can store information in there to your heart's content. User spaces can grow up to 16 megabytes, unlike a data area, which has a smaller limit. Display sys and display version are two very useful commands. I use them probably hourly on my system. They display system information. So they'll display the current version of IBM I. So if you're running on V7R1, it'll display V7R1M0. It'll also display the CPU serial number, the processor group, amount of disk space you've used, and number of CPUs on the machine. The display version command is a little bit faster, and it basically just shows you the version of the operating system that's running. FTP file is probably by far the most popular command in Cozzi Tools. It allows you to simply FTP a file from one location to the other. You put the from file, the to file, the remote location name, user ID, and password, press enter, It generates the FTP script under the covers, sends the data over. It even is so smart that if you're sending a save file, it'll make adjustments so that it sends the save file correctly. FTPR command allows you to use CL commands on another system. So for example, you're on system A, you want to run a command on system B, you can type in FTPR command, prompt it, and you can type in up to 3 CL commands that'll run one after the other on the remote system. We've used this before where a rogue job is ended QEnter, maybe doing a backup or whatever, and for some reason it failed or there was an error or a power issue, and QEnter isn't started and we're having difficulty getting on the system because it's remote. We simply run the FTPR command, start subsystem QEnter, and QEnter is back up and we can get on the machine. Saved us more than once. Save and restore library list command allow you to save a library list, including the current lib, the product lib, and the user portion of the library list, and then restore it at some point. Now, this doesn't mean save to tape. What it does is it saves it actually to a user space in Qtemp and then restores it from that user space in Qtemp. The idea is you call a CL program, it runs, maybe it's legacy code or third-party software that thinks it's the only application on your system running, and it screws up your job's library list. And then you return, and now the current library or your library list is wrong, and you've got to reset it. So the nice thing about these commands is before you call that other program, you issue a save library list. When you return, you issue a restore library list. So it's sort of like the old push and pop technology back in the 370 assembler days. Retrieve date, one of the things we learned when we were interviewing people about what they wanted in a product like the Cozzi tools is they say they do a lot of date conversions in CL. They get dates from various sources, from CL, from out files, from third-party applications, and those dates come in a certain format. And they need to convert the date into a specific format, and so they want to be able to do that. But also they want to be able to return today's date or tomorrow's date or yesterday's date or a week from now. So this command, retrieve date, does all of that for you in CL and works very well. You can return tomorrow's date, you can return today's date, yesterday's date, you can return 7 days from today, and you can tell it what format you want to return it in. And it will return it either as numeric or character based on the CL return variable you pass to the command. Send object I use a lot. This is basically replacing some of the things that we used to have with SNADs. A lot of people don't have SNADs set up or don't have that system name set up or user enrolled in it. What this does is under the covers it uses the FTP file command and allows you to identify an object, and it will send that object or objects to a remote system and optionally restore them once it sends it there. So it's a pretty powerful command. It's not unlike the old save restore lib command, which is very powerful and does that at a library level, but this does it at the object level. We also have a send save file command, which just handles all the issues of sending save files. I know a lot of shops have libraries where they store save files, online saves, and then they want to transfer that library. Well, it's kind of awkward to have a library full of save files and then save that library because you're going through the whole save process a second time when all the files in it are already in save file format. So this command allows you just to FTP those save files one at a time to another system and then put them in the target library. The nice thing is it goes a lot faster than saving it, sending one big gigantic library across the line and then restoring that library just to get everything there. This sends each one in sequence for you. Plus, you can omit certain save files based on the save file name. Send print file is another tool. It's very similar to the copy outq command, except this works on a single spool file basis. It allows you to send a spool file from one system to another. The nice thing is we also give you an exit program that if you're running on v7r1, you can add this exit program to your system. If you take option S next to any spool file name, this command is prompted with all the attributes filled in. All you have to do is key in the remote system name, press enter, and it sends the spool file to the remote site. Works pretty cool. And then there's work print. Now this isn't rocket science. This is just a matter of convenience. When you're dealing with users who are users, not programmers, you still have the where's my output. And a lot of users keep their spool files all in their same out queue, and then they go in there and they've got 6 months worth of spool files in there. So they get frustrated, and then they call you and say, I can't find my output. What this command does, it basically allows them to type in a simple command, work print, and it will show them only the spool files that they created today. There's options on this that allow you to adjust that so you can show them the spool files for their current job. And you can also specify a certain user so that if you have to run it and you need to know that programmer Bob over here is doing something, you want to see what output he has, you could say work print, and you can specify user Bob, and then just today's output from Bob will show up in your work with spool file command. So that's the list of commands that are very popular. The other ones are all there. They're pretty self-explanatory based on the names. We think you're going to enjoy them, especially since these are all included in the runtime for free. 2 years from now, we think most IBM i shops will be using Cozzi tools, migrating from RPGX tools or from the RPG Open library. The free runtime support makes it easy, and when you do need to be more productive, you need to move up to the Developer Edition or the Enterprise Edition and take advantage of everything that goes with that. Cozzi Tools is available today at www.cozzitools.com.